and we are here for Sunday school this morning. This is our Sunday school on May 16th in Davison, Michigan at Trinity Lutheran. And today we are on our next to the last Sunday school lesson. Can you believe there's only one more week after today, one more lesson after today, and then we are off until September, except that in August, the very first week of August, 2 to 6, August 12th to the 2nd to the 6th, we have VBS, and that'll be from 9:30 to 12:30 in the morning. We're going to be looking at some of the same two lessons the last two we've been looking at. A couple of weeks ago, last week we took off for Mother's Day. We were off on a little vacation Sunday. And 2 weeks ago, though, girls, we looked at something that happened in our fourth C. We have our our 7 C's of history. We started with creation way back in September. We moved to corruption, creation when God made everything, corruption when man fell into sin, catastrophe, men just continued to get more and more sinful. God sent a flood, but saved one family in the ark and a bunch of animals. And then we moved to 2 weeks ago to the C of confusion, the fourth one. Let's look at today's theme. It's based on that same C. It says, one race, the human race. All people are descendants of Adam and Eve. Yeah, and if we looked at life and everybody around us in the light of God's Word, we would see, and we're going to look at this today, how God created us in His image, but that we are all the same in our soul and spirit. Our bodies look different, and we're going to look at some. We're going to be looking at some reasons why our bodies. Well, we will. Mm-hmm. So we're going to look at. Hang on, girls. Let me keep telling you what's going on. So today we're going to look at that. Even though we may look at each other and look around and see differences, God sees all the same. Yeah, and because He created us as one race, the human race. When I was in school, I learned there were 3 races, and that's just man looking around the world and trying to make sense of the world without God's Word. Without the Bible, we can fall into all kinds of... Okay, yeah. We can look at all kinds of reasons to look differently at other people, and all it does is cause more problems and so on. So we're going to look in God's Word today at this one race, the human race. We don't have 3 races or 4 or 5 races, but one. We have different people groups, different nations, tribes, ethnicities, and so on, but we have one main race, and that is the human race, that as God created us under Adam and Eve, or from Adam and Eve. So let's take a look at our third slide, which it should be this one. Yep. If you want to. So we're going to look at, this is what we looked at 2 weeks ago. This was our lesson, was the confusion, the dispersion at Babel. Or some people say it Babel or Babel. But when you say it Babel, it kind of tells us what happened there. So what exactly, I know you guys were both here last time. It says, well, I won't read the bottom part because I see if you can tell me. What happened here in that sea of confusion? What caused the confusion? Yep.
He changed the languages because on the paper it says God scattered the people by creating many languages like Scottish. There was Spanish, French, yes.
German, Italian.
English. There was German, Chinese, Japanese, Korean.
Yep.
African.
All kinds, right. We right now in our world today, as people are spread out around the world, we have thousands of different languages and even little dialects to those languages. Like when I studied Spanish in school, I learned that there were 2 different dialects Spanish. We're just a little bit different from each other. And so, and even in our English, our American English is a little bit different than the British English. They use some different terms for the same things than we do.
Have a different kind of food.
Yeah. So we looked at this sea, this fourth sea of confusion, and God scattered the people. Because why did he have to scatter them? What were they doing? What was the sin they were doing that God decided he had to come and change things? Yep.
So he basically told them to go somewhere, but they didn't because they made that.
There you go. Like Michaela just told us. He basically told them when they got off the ark, when Noah and his sons and their wives got off the ark, he told them to be fruitful and multiply and fill the earth with people. Spread out.
They stayed in the right spot.
They stayed in one place, so they disobeyed God, they sinned, and by staying in that one place, and yeah, right, and they wanted to make a tower to heaven, to make a name for themselves. Well, they did make a name for themselves, didn't they? But not the way they thought they were going to be famous. But I tell you something as we get into the lesson more, something that the Tower of Babel and the technology it took for them to build this tells us that the first people on earth were not stupid. They were pretty smart. So we'll look at our next slide. That sea of catastrophe, this one, when the worldwide flood. Now, why did God send the flood? Once again, what was the reason for the flood? Was because people were full of sin. And same here. People were full of sin. They weren't obeying God. God sent the flood here to wipe out almost all of life on earth. Everything. Yes, I love that fish. Eating a fish. Almost every bit of life except those who were saved alive on the ark. We can look at this next slide. The ark was a huge boat, wasn't it? We talked about how it was the size of 480 school buses. Wow, that is big.
That could fit like over 1,000 children.
Yeah, way more, yeah, because it was 10 buses across, 10 buses wide, looking at the front of a bus, like if this table was the shape of a bus, 10 wide, 12 end to end, and 4 buses high. That's how big the ark was. It was so big. God saved animals. Sure, you can look at the globe. I'll tell you what, let's put that on the table for you guys to look at. And I can still use it for an example, even long as we don't spend all of our time playing with it, guys. Remember, girls, also remember to listen. You can look at that. And I'll tell you when we're going to look at certain things on there. But this ark was huge. God saved 8 people, the whole family of Noah, him, his wife, his 3 sons, and their wives, and a bunch of animals, by 2 by 2 and sets of 7 by 2. But now what does that word Babel mean? Do you remember? In the Tower of Babel, and it was the place, we call the place Babel, where God confused the languages, and that word Babel meant confused. So that is where he confused the languages. He punished their sin by confusing the language. So we're going to move on. We have our slide for today. This is our lesson. This is what it looks like. One race, the human race. Take a look at your coloring picture. Girls, your coloring picture will look like that compared to my color one. It's already all printed in color. So, yep, there's the U.S. Okay, Michaela, we're going to take a look at today's theme. And there you go, there's your coloring sheet. And look at all the different people. We are all one race, the human race, and they all look different from all kinds of places. And part of the reason that people look different goes all the way back to that Tower of Babel. When God scattered them, when he scattered them all around the world, Some went to northern regions, right, where it was cold. Some may have gone to southern regions where it was warmer. Some may have gone to more watery regions. Yeah. We can sort of see by what they're wearing if they were in warm places or cold places. But here's the key picture on this. See who's at the top? The people, Adam and Eve. And so everybody on the world, in the whole world, came from just those two people. All our different colors of skin, all our different colors of hair, all our different colors of eyes, we all came from the same two people. Have you ever seen that in a family where the kids looked a little bit different?
My grandma came from my white grandparents who passed away on which are Dennis and Goldie. That's what we call them.
Mm-hmm.
And then now she only has actually no. Grandma Goldie was great grandma Goldie was her stepmother.
Okay.
And then my Papa Joe, my great Papa Joe is my. It's so rainy. And then, I'm trying to remember.
Okay. All right. Well, what I want us to think about here is how our families can look different. We had neighbors that used to live across the street from us. They moved a long time ago, but they had 3 kids, 2 girls and a boy, and every one of their kids had different color hair. Can you imagine that in one family? One kid was really blonde, one kid had really dark hair, and one kid had red hair. They all had different, same 2 parents. So when you look at something like that, even here in our world, in our time, we can see how Adam and Eve, as time progressed and wherever they went to live, that would temper kind of how their features may have changed or how their gene pool. Now, especially with the Tower of Babel, the people went, let's take a look. You have a map. This one right here. This is called a migration map, and I think it's our next slide. On this migration map, after the flood, remember the command, be fruitful and multiply and fill the earth. Same thing he told Adam and Eve, be fruitful and multiply and fill the earth. Adam and Eve's family, they listened and they started to spread out. These people, as Ellery told us earlier, didn't want to spread out. They stayed in one place. They built that tower to make a name for themselves. But God had to come in and disperse them. Now see how the map shows like a central point here with arrows going in different directions? And if you follow this arrow, right, and as you follow this arrow up, you'll see on the other side of the map how it comes down through North and South America. But it starts somewhere here in the Middle East and going east and southeast, southwest, and northwest, and on down through the continents of North and South America. So people migrated all over the place, and that's one of the reasons that we see so many different features on the people. Let's take a look. We skipped over a slide 8, which has Genesis 11, 8 and 9. And let's take a look at what God, this tells how God spread them. Now, they didn't have to move. God moved them. He said, nope, I'm confusing the language.
You're going to get a language of Mexican.
You're going to go all over the earth, wherever I send you. So the Lord dispersed them from there over the face of all the earth, and they left off building the city. So they stopped building this big city because now they were confused in the languages. Now say this little pocket of people spoke some kind of Spanish, they all moved together. This little pocket spoke Italian, they all moved together. This little pocket spoke maybe Swahili or something like that, and they all moved together. So whatever the language was, that group of people that had a common language moved around together. Therefore, its name, the city they had tried to make, was called Babel, because there the Lord confused the language of all the earth, and from there the Lord dispersed them over the face of all the earth. So just make sure They didn't just have to get up and go. God moved them. And he moved them all over the earth. Think about this. Have either of you ever moved from an old house to a new house?
But like my great ancestors, they probably immigrated here from Scotland.
Okay, you had some that came from Scotland.
Yeah, because I have like a Scotland accent.
Mm-hmm.
Probably one of the weirdest things that I've ever noticed is once I looked at my grandma's wedding photos and her hair was blonde and my dad's hair is like a very dark brown.
Mm-hmm. Like yours?
But mine's actually like lighter because when it's in the sun it turns caramel.
Uh-huh. The sun. Yeah, the sun also makes a difference on what color our hair is, because a lot of times our hair will get lighter the more we're in the sun. And over the winter time, and over time in the summer and the winter, it may get darker as that lighter hair grows out. And so our hair color is kind of changing in various little shades, and we're going to look more at that in a minute too. Now, let's look at our first class notes, and that is our slide 10. That it says the people at Babel were scattered because God confused their language. That's what scattered them. They were disobeying God. He told them after they got off the ark, the families were to move all over, spread out, and fill the world. But they decided they didn't want to do that. They disobeyed God, and so he had to come down and make them move and send them all over the place. So now, when they, if you think about moving, I've moved a lot of different times because,
This is how big the world is.
I remember living in 3 different houses as a little kid. We moved, and then we moved to a house while my dad was building our house. And once that house was built, we moved there, and I didn't move again until I got out of high school and stuff, and I moved. I went to college. I moved to Minnesota. That was a lot of packing to move to Minnesota. From college, I graduated college, and I got sent out to Portland, Oregon. So I had to pack up again and move from Minneapolis, or from Minnesota to Oregon, and then from Oregon I got sent to Yale, Michigan, which is over by Lake Huron, and so I had to pack up again. I moved to Yale, and from Yale I moved here to Davison, and I've moved 3 times in Davison. I've lived in 3.
Never moved, only when I was a baby.
But as you get older, sometimes you move a bunch of times, and that's a lot of packing and stuff. But guess what? These guys, because it was so sudden, and God moved them, they didn't have that, what we have. They couldn't really pack up much. They could.
I'm not gonna move until in the like when I'm like in my 30s or 40s. I'm not gonna move, but when like if I adopt a dog, yeah, when I adopt, yeah, they're probably gonna move because the house is probably gonna be like very, very dirty because we have like cracks here. Pretend this is our house. Cracks here, cracks here, cracks here. Like everywhere you turn, there's a sudden crack.
So you may need a different house after a while. So when we look back at our migration map and you think about where people moved, and you can look at the map there, the blue spots, the blue on our globe is all what? The blue is all water, and all the colors represent different nations, different countries. Even in our United States, it's got different colors for the different states. Yep. So think about this, girls. If you were basically really good at fishing, where might you move? If God sent you to move somewhere, would you move near the mountains or near the water, or where would you go?
I would go to.
Right, she's pointing to watery places. You would go near the water, near lakes, rivers, maybe, or the ocean. And so but if you were a hunter, where would you move? If you were, you would move to places where hunting is really good, right? That looks like Mongolia there. right where you're pointing. Anyway, so the people, depending on what they did for a living, may have moved to different areas. God may have moved them to different places. But think about this. A lot of those people moved where they moved. It was kind of hard. They may not have had the materials to build homes. If you knew how to make bricks and you had the materials, the things to make bricks, you could make a brick house, right? You know, when you travel along M57 between Clio and Greenville, you see a lot of houses made out of stone because a lot of those people liked that stone. A lot of houses there, and people made their houses. Girls, listen up. Back in those days, people made their houses depending on what kind of materials they had. What if you didn't have any materials to make a house? Those people moved into caves. And there's where we hear that word caveman. When we think about cavemen, when you see it on TV or stuff, you think about they were not intelligent and they were kind of like half kind of apes changing into men. And that isn't even true. Those people that lived in caves were pretty smart, pretty intelligent, because even as we look and we find the drawings they made inside those caves, they were pretty talented.
Yeah, they were like
Pretty talented.
Pablo Picasso, and
Yeah.
didn't they invent the wheel?
He wasn't the one that invented the wheel, but yeah, people learned how to do that. You know what? People learned how to do that way before that, because even in Adam and Eve's time, when we hear about Cain and where he had to move, those people knew how, yes, they knew how to make weapons and tools and instruments. Look at this, a guy here. There's a guy here playing flute. Here's somebody cooking over an open fire. Here's a guy with a bow and arrow and an axe. So he's got a bow and arrow for hunting, an axe for cutting down trees. If you flip over your map, that's the one. Flip over your map. And now this one is not on our screens because it came from the other part of the lesson. But this these people were not dummies. Just because they lived in a cave didn't make them stupid or unintelligent, because we know, think about this. When God they found shelter because you have to be safe from the rain. Isn't it nice to be inside right now? Because what's it doing out there? Raining. And even though the last 2 days have been nice and warm, it's a little bit chilly out there with the rain. So they were looking for places for shelter, to get out of the rain, to get out of the snow, to stay. They also were wanting to get safe from the animals, right? So if you lived in a cave, it was an instant home. You didn't have much to build, you didn't have much to do. Now think about this. Yeah, no electricity yet. That didn't happen for a long time.
Candles back then, all electricity.
They could make candles. They could make things that they lit, or lighting fires like we see here. They knew that fire was a good form of light, but they knew how to make fires. Guess what? Think about how intelligent Adam was. Girls, do you remember what was the first job that God gave Adam to do after he created him? Before he created Eve, he gave him a really big job to do. Do you remember what it was? The first job. It had something to do with the animals.
To shave animals?
He had to name them, remember? He named all the animals.
Named the elephant, the giraffe,
Yep.
and a tiger.
Yep.
Imagine if the elephant's name was Dumbo or Big-eared.
Yes. He could have called that a big nose, big-eared animal. Well, actually, all elephants don't have big ears. There are two different kind of elephants. One breed of elephant has big ears, one has smaller ears. So they're even different. But see, the thing is, Adam was no dummy. We are all created in God's image. God created us in His image, and so we have intelligence. Right from the very beginning, we didn't crawl around and wonder what to do and have to, God helped us learn things. They learned how to make fire, and look at Noah. I mean, Noah was given the job of making a boat.
Probably one of the most lies that can make you really angry about cavemen is that that monkeys turned into cavemen and cavemen turned into men. That doesn't even make sense.
That doesn't, right, exactly.
We don't start out as like monkeys then turn into a caveman / cavewoman, and then
Right, right, she's got it. We didn't start out as monkeys.
we were made out of monkeys.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Some people want to teach us that, but you know what they're doing? They're taking the Bible and they're saying, we don't want to believe what God told us, that we are made special in His image. We're just going to throw that Bible away and make up our own way, and we're going to say that we came from a monkey because we look similar. Well, you know, all animals have eyes, right?
If I ever met a person who said that, I would just be like this, get alive, the Bible's right, you're not.
The Bible is right. That's right.
Hit him in the face.
Oh, I wouldn't get violent, but you can really tell them how wrong they are. God had created Adam and Eve in His image, and we are like Him. So we came right from the get-go being intelligent. Let's take a look. We have, our next slide is for the class note 2. Families from Babel probably moved into caves. These are the cavemen we hear about today, but they were fully human. No thing about being half man, half human, half animal, half human. Because when God created everything in that 6 days, He specifically told us He made animals and animals in their kind, and He made people. And He made us special because He breathed His Spirit into us. So we have a body, a soul, and a spirit. And helps us remember. That's our thinking, our intelligence, our intellect, and our feelings is our soul. Our spirit lives on forever, and that's the part of us that will end up going to heaven when we die. Or sadly, if we don't tell people about Jesus and have them invite Jesus into their hearts, they can end up not going to heaven. Yeah. So we're going to look at how we're all made in God's image, and we're all alike, or we have differences, right, that you could tell, or we have similarities. Let's do this. Let's put all our arms together right here. And see, are we all the same color? Are we all the same shade? No.
Because I'm darker than you.
Yeah, a little bit.
The light.
Yep, and I'm kind of like pink and stuff. Yeah. So we're going to look at something. Let's see, not yet. We're going to look at different ways that we're alike, ways that we're different. Where we can already tell, just the three of us, our shades are a little bit different, aren't they? And I'm getting ahead of some of this, but I'm kind of jumping around because there's a lot of stuff here to cover. So we're going to look at how we're alike or how we're different. We saw that we're different that way, but we can look at hair. Some of us have long hair. Some of us have short hair. Mine's getting pretty long, but it's been long and it's been short. It's been even really short and it's been really long. And that's just how we like to have our hair. If we want it short, we want it long. That's a difference that can change.
I'm glad my grandma did cut
Ooh.
my hair. Oh, she would make it crooked, like maybe like this side would be like this side would be like this. That would just be because she cuts crooked. She like once did my bangs like so. Here's how. So she takes my bangs, she cuts them.
Mm-hmm.
And last thing you know, this side is crooked. This one. Like,
Yes. I used to have lots of trouble with that, trying to do my bangs and getting them.
do you not know equal angles, maybe?
Sometimes there's an easier way to get your bangs straight than that. So we're going to look at our differences and why we're different and stuff. We have a video that's